and welcome to the 2014 WWE Payback post-show right here on AngryMarks.com. My name is Stevie J, and I'm joined by our recapper of WWE Payback tonight, the one and only Nikolai. Nick, good evening.
Hey Stevie, long time no talk. Good to join you this evening for WWE Payback discussion.
Yeah, and I have to start out right at the top by saying they call it Payback, but in reality, the Shield already got their payback on Evolution last month, so this just feels like even more payback, although I don't think we can get that hashtag to trend.
Well, not only that, but I mean, the Shield are the ones that issued the rematch, so I don't know who's the one issuing the payback since they won again. So
Doesn't make a lot of sense when you try to analyze it logically, but as you and I were saying off the air, it doesn't even matter because when you're only paying $9.99 a month for WWE Network, shows like this are just fun. It doesn't hurt you in the wallet and you don't have to worry about it too much. You find yourself enjoying it a whole lot more.
oh yeah, definitely, because when you are only paying $9.99 a month, you kinda gonna get what you paid for, and it's a lot better than being disappointed when you pay $55 a month for HD.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the big upgrade for me ever since WWE Network launched is it was an extra $10 to order anything on HD, and the only time I could really find myself justifying that was WrestleMania. But now everything on the WWE Network is in HD, so it's not like I have to pay an extra $10 for that. Although I'm sure Vince McMahon would be more than happy to charge us an extra $10 a month for it.
I can watch the pay-per-view, not just the pay-per-view, I can watch WWE Network through my PlayStation 3 on a television that is standard definition and still get a clear picture.
Right, because everything is bit streamed at the highest possible quality rate. So no matter what TV you're hooking up your Roku, your PS3, your whatever to, it's gonna look beautiful. And that tonight, even more so than NXT TakeOver on Thursday, I thought the feed looked beautiful because during TakeOver I was having some problems. It was like NXT Arrival where it would freeze, it would die, I'd have to restart it. But for some reason, when it comes to the pay-per-views, they never seem to have this issue. Or, I guess they call it special events now. I'm doing air quotations when I say special events, but for the special events on Sunday nights, they always seem to get enough bandwidth to make it work.
Well, the oddest thing about that, since you mentioned NXT Arrival, was, I mentioned I was watching this on my PlayStation 3, and, as it's going on live, I mean, I have it on my PS3 and on my laptop. You know, it's easier to do the recap when you're watching it on your laptop split screen, so you could, you don't have to keep looking up. But I mean, at the end of the match, the Shield had won, yet on the PlayStation stream, it had cut back to the middle of the match. So thankfully, since I had the computer on, I still got to see the end of it.
You know, I noticed maybe this is the differences between regions and maybe this is the differences between devices, but I actually pulled it up on my iPhone during the show, and I found that whenever I would look at WWE Network on my iPhone, it'd be about 5 to 10 seconds ahead. So when people were tweeting that something just happened, if I was looking at my iPhone, I saw it there first, and if I was looking at my PS3, it was lagging a little bit behind.
No, it's not a regional thing. I mean, the PlayStation, it still has the little 2-second skips. So I've been behind every now and then myself, but all I do is just I just exit out and then re-click the stream, and it goes right back to, sometimes it's 5 seconds ahead of the laptop, sometimes it's on time, on cue, sometimes when the stream lags and skips, it's behind. Either way, I really had no issues on either stream except for, occasionally having to pause. And that's another great thing about watching a pay-per-view on the network, is that you can pause it during the live stream and then still continue it when you press play. Or even if it's in the middle of the pay-per-view and you just get home, you can still watch it from the beginning. That's just an awesome concept for this whole thing.
Right. It's instant on-demand DVR. I don't think we put that over often enough because I've caught myself doing the same thing watching NXT or Legends House, that if I come home in the middle of the show, I can rewind it and watch it. I can watch from beginning and watch the entire thing from the start. There is just so much technology that goes into it that is worth every single penny of the $9.99 that we pay. And I know they make all their hyperbole about it being way over the top and better than Netflix and all this and all that, but they really do a lot of things with the technology that before WWE Network we didn't see from a major entertainment company.
And honestly, I can't praise them enough, and I wish I was getting paid by the company to shill this product, because I love the WWE Network. It's my favorite thing. I even posted it on Facebook one time. I said my 3 favorite networks: the WWE Network, the NFL Network, and the Angry Marks Network.
Well said, Nick. I can't fault any part of that. That is very, very high praise. Honestly, I love that, but I don't even know if I can really consider myself a fair comparison to either one of the other two. But I'll say this much. In terms of what you can get on demand and live stream, NFL Network's got nothing on WWE Network. And I love football as much as you do, but it just doesn't compare.
Exactly. That's a really great way to put it.
So with that said, we did get a nice little pre-show on WWE Network tonight with El Torito versus Hornswoggle and a mask versus hair match. And I know you watched this whole thing from top to bottom since you did our recap, so what were your thoughts on this pre-show match?
Worse than last month. I think the Extreme Rules match that they had, the WLC match, as gimmicky as it was, I think it was a lot more played out perfectly. The spots were awesome, and mind you, I'm not even paying attention to the rest of the gimmicks that went on, but I mean, the match itself was really good. This match, the hair versus mask versus hair, it got really boring in the middle, especially after the airplane spin. You see them getting dizzy. I mean, I know it was comical. I know what the purpose of it was, but they just could not top the WLC match, in my opinion.
Well, they were handicapped just by the fact that it was WLC before TLC, so to hype up TLC to get people to check it out, they had a lot of violence and a lot of things get broken and a lot of extreme spots, whereas this had none of that kind of build. They didn't need this to sell people on watching Payback. In fact, if people were watching Payback, it was pretty much for the Shield versus Evolution, maybe for Wyatt versus Cena. So the only reason this match existed was to fill some time on the pre-show, and I think it served that purpose, but honestly, the only part of it that really even made a difference to me one way or the other as a viewer was seeing Hornswoggle get shaved at the end.
Well, I mentioned this on the preview podcast that King Jay and I did on the SmackDown Rundown, that this feud, it felt like it had died down after the WLC match, and then all of a sudden it came back up. You have El Torito defeating all members of 3MB in singles matches. So you knew that this was going to be the end of it, because as much as you know, I know you know this, but in Lucha Libre, the end to a feud is a mask versus hair match. So yes. This really caught me by surprise that they were doing this, because I was not expecting either of them to either lose their mask or their hair. So when this match got announced, I was really shocked, and the simple fact that I actually probably would have preferred Adam Rose versus Jack Swagger in the pre-show.
Yeah, and I teased that on Thursday night when I did my show with Danberg, was that would have been a nice addition to the pay-per-view, but it was not meant to be. I guess they feel like either that feud has more legs or that's a feud for SmackDown and not for pay-per-view, but regardless, at least we got the comedy of seeing Hornswoggle be doused with shaving cream.
I'm sorry, but Vince McMahon with shaving cream on his head was a better image.
I'm not going to even argue that one because I was at WrestleMania 23 in Detroit, so that's not even a contest to me. I was standing there trying to catch the hair clippings as they were being thrown over the rail.
But hopefully this feud is over with. I mean, what else can you do between these two? And I'm not discrediting the match itself. It was just too much silliness. When Los Matadores and 3MB got involved, I think that's when it picked up for me.
I can't disagree. It needed them, and in fact, I would actually say if this feud has to continue, and you're right, with a Lucha Libre feud, if it was in CMLL or AAA, this would be the end of it. But if it was going to continue after this point, it should be 3MB and Los Matadores and leave the minis, just their feud's done. The main guys are gonna feud now that the minis have done with their feud. That's the only way you could do it if it went on from here, but...
Real quick question though, did you notice that 3MB left Hornswoggle?
That's true. They pretty much abandoned him once it got down to the shaving his head part. They didn't come and try to make the save or do anything to help him.
I just thought that was of note to point out.
It's worth pointing out. And speaking of things worth pointing out, I thought Sheamus and Cesaro was a really fun match and a great opener for the main card. But after everything that we saw in that match, it just seemed really weak to end it on a small package.
I understand, like, this was a really hard-hitting match. And it was expected this so, because Sheamus and Cesaro have always put on really good matches, and they bust out a lot of hard-hitting moves. I mean, we saw the Irish Curse Backbreaker, the very European uppercut, White Noise, Cloverleaf, the Death Valley driver that Cesaro does, the Cesaro swing of all things, and yeah, a roll-up, or an inside cradle. I mean, I like the surprise win. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like that Sheamus kinda got one over on Cesaro, but it wasn't a finisher that did it after all those hard-hitting moves. So I can see why you would question that.
Yeah, it's a letdown, not just because of the fact that I'm a Cesaro fan and he just done the big swing and that would lead you to think that, you know, he's gonna hit that neutralizer, but just in general, just when you have a hard-hitting match like that, you want a big finish at the end. You don't want a guy to just get an inside cradle and finish the match that way. And right now, on WWE Network, you can see Paul Heyman is animated about it and upset. And that's a good sell for it, as he should be. He should be like, why should my guy lose to that after beating the heck out of his opponent for 10 to 15 minutes? That's how he should feel.
Yeah, I mean, they were shocked at the surprise 3 count, even right after the match was over. So they're selling it well. And I'm actually seeing it right now on the Fallout on WWE Network. So it does kind of take you by surprise that the roll-up got the win. So I'm not too angry about it. At the same time, I can see why you'd be upset about it.
And I think it just goes to show that they want us to actually anticipate more from Cesaro. They don't want him to get the clean wins right now because there are bigger plans for him in the future, possibly even Money in the Bank coming up very shortly. So if everything plays out the way they intended to, this will be forgotten in the grand scheme of things. So perhaps I should forget it too and just move on, because next we had Rybaxel versus the Brotherhood. And what were your thoughts on this, Nick?
Such a random match from a backstage segment that happened on Raw, which I thought that they had settled on main event, because Ryback and Goldust, they had that little interaction on the clip that we saw, and there was a match on main event that followed that, so I was kind of surprised that this match got thrown in on the pay-per-view. So, other than that, the match itself was pretty good. The ending was sort of predictable with Cody Rhodes losing, and I think it works out in the way that he's been acting.
Right. They've played that up in the storylines with Cody Rhodes repeatedly apologizing to Goldust, saying, I'm the weak link in our team. You need somebody else. I'm not the right guy. In fact, he even said that after the match. Everybody thought Cody Rhodes was going to attack him and lay him out and make a heel turn. But instead, he just says, brother, you need a better partner than me. And he walks out of the ring and just leaves Goldie there.
That was the real shocker. The fact that he calmly said, you need a better tag team partner than me. And not flipping out at him, not attacking him, not walking off on him. It's just the simple, discouraging line that he said. That was the real shocker in the fact that everybody expected him to turn heel.
Right. And that's actually, you talk about the swerve. Everybody thinks a swerve is when you do something where a wrestler attacks a wrestler and you didn't see it coming. And then everybody's in shock about, oh my God, I can't believe that guy did that. But a swerve doesn't always have to be a big physical altercation. Sometimes it can be a simple, small moment, like what we got here. And that's actually a better swerve, because you're expecting the beatdown, you're expecting the heel turn, and instead he just calmly said, I'm not the guy. You need somebody else. And that is a better swerve. It's a swerve on the swerve, if that makes sense.
In a way, yeah.
It screws with our wrestling expectations, and that's what I like about it. But, I don't remember if Rusev and Big E was booked. I'd have to go back and check the SmackDown rundown to make sure whether you guys talked about that or not. But either way, they took an awfully long time building this up for what turned out to be an awfully short match, because Lana came out, cut the promo, talked about Vladimir Putin, yada, 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 and then we finally got around to Big E coming out waving the American flag.
The previous match that we just talked about, the Rhodes Brothers versus Rybaxel, was a add-on. Big E versus Rusev was quietly announced. We did talk about that on the SmackDown rundown. And, we kind of guessed. We figured that Big E was going to be Rusev's toughest opponent, and he was. We saw Rusev down quite a bit. Big E hit a Uranagi that kept him down for a while, but Rusev quickly got to his feet and super kicked him, then locked in the camel clutch that he calls the Accolade for the win.
They could call it the Accolade if they want to, but I look at him putting on that move, and I immediately started screaming like the Iron Sheik, break your back, make you hobble!
You know, I'm surprised Rusev had enough energy to go through this match after waving that Russian flag like it was 500 pounds. You see him throwing that flag around back and forth?
It was like he was using kettlebells. It was like he was doing sambo practice. It's like, man, you're putting a lot of energy into throwing that flag around, buddy.
How heavy is that flagpole?
It must be made out of solid titanium or something.
Well, I did, on a side note, I did appreciate Big E's ring attire. It had American stars and you know, just to represent the United States. This coming after Memorial Day, so it was a nice tribute.
Yeah, it was very uber patriotic of him, but the only question is, they've now had Big E destroy Rusev destroy absolutely everybody. If I got distracted there, it's because Alicia Fox came out and started flipping things around on WWE Network, and whenever she comes out, my attention is grabbed immediately, so I apologize for that, but Rusev has just been blowing through people and now has blown through Big E, the former Intercontinental Champion. So who's going to stop Rusev at this point?
I don't know, but I didn't want to say nothing, but I mean, Rusev took out Xavier Woods, R-Truth, Kofi Kingston, and now Big E. So
are you getting on that shit that people were getting on Twitter? Because I was getting tweets about this during the night of people saying things like, WWE doesn't like black people. And apparently their venom was directed at this match for the fact that Big E tapped out to the camel clutch.
I mean, I just had to throw that out there, you know, since it's such a hot topic. I mean, people want to forget that he took out Sin Cara also. I'm starting to think that Zack Ryder was the only token white guy that Rusev took out.
Well, I guess that if we want to make it fair and prove that there's no bias in WWE, the next thing Rusev should do is challenge for the Intercontinental title, and then maybe we could get that over as like, see, he's not just going after the brothers, now he's going after everybody.
Well, maybe all the talk and rumors can stop.
Yeah, that might be the way to do it, but we do have to move on from that, and if you're in that mindset that some of the people were on my Twitter tonight, you would not be happy with what happened next either, because
what a bad segue.
Sorry, it just lends itself to it, because before we could even get Kofi Kingston versus Bo Dallas, who should come out to interrupt but the devil's favorite demon, Kane.
And this is one of those random moments that happen on the show. Kane, out of nowhere. I even named this in the official recap that's a disqualification, because the bell rang, Kane came out, attacked Kofi, and the bell rang again. So that's an official win by Kofi Kingston over Bo Dallas.
Technically, it's a win, but he didn't look like much of a winner by the time all was said and done.
No, Bo Dallas was he came off as the winner with his motivational speech.
Yeah, and not only that, he got to do all the best stuff, basically Kofi gets laid out and Bo cuts the promo before, Bo cuts the promo after. Bo tells everybody to Bo leave, and he says, Kofi, you'll be back on your feet in no time if you only Bo leave. Honestly, there's just no way Kofi gets anything out of this whatsoever.
No, except the stretcher and a ride to the hospital. You got chokeslammed and then tombstoned.
Yeah, poor Kofi. SOS, I hear them calling. They need to send out the SOS for Kofi at this point.
Kofi's new phrase is skills all day. I think he's gonna need gauze all day.
He's gonna need a traction all day. He's gonna need a brace all day. He's gonna need some sort of medical help walking to the back all day.
Seriously.
It's a nice phrase, but he's gotta actually start winning at some point. Kofi is very low on the totem pole right now.
And I mean, they took him off of the talk panel for that?
Yeah. I don't understand it either. They couldn't have found somebody else to play that role. I mean, if you're gonna play the conspiracy theorist and say that they're hating on the brothers, why not send out JTG for this?
Or R-Truth, or Xavier Woods. They're not doing anything.
Right. I mean, where were they on this show tonight? They weren't seen. They weren't involved. They could have gone out here and done this. Then Kofi could have just kept his suit and tie on and been fine.
Yep, and keep chatting it up with Booker T and Alex Riley.
I think that would have been a better use for him than this squash, but whatever. I mean, technically, he did get the win. Well, we have to keep saying technically, because it doesn't look like it when you watch this. If you saw the beginning and the end and not the middle, you wouldn't know that he actually won anything. But
just trying to make light of it.
Yeah, well, we will get to somebody who actually did win something. Intercontinental Championship, Rob Van Dam challenging Bad News Barrett, and I'm afraid I've got some bad news. The Blackhawks aren't going to win.
Oh, good old classic cheap heat.
Yep, and they didn't. He was actually right about that. The Kings won in overtime and now move on to the Stanley Cup Finals. So it was a startlingly accurate prediction by Bad News Barrett.
Well, that wasn't the only prediction about the Blackhawks made earlier in the evening.
That's true. A lot of people were using it for cheap heat throughout the night. And, I mean, you're in Chicago. They're in the Stanley Cup Finals in the Western Conference, or semifinals. You might as well. I mean, apparently, CM Punk was actually at the game watching.
And Paul Heyman made mention of that after the crowd was chanting CM Punk, which was to be expected since Payback was in Chicago.
Mm-hmm. And I thought it was pretty nice that he said, "Oh, you might want that, but hey, he had better things to do tonight. He's in a playoff game." And they didn't even boo him when he said that. They actually cheered because that's how much they like the Blackhawks.
Well, they had to boo him after he said, that he's at a Blackhawks game and he's gonna watch them lose and have their winning streak broken, just like when my client Brock Lesnar beat The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak.
Right. They didn't want to hate Heyman. They didn't want to hate the mention of the Blackhawks. He really had to go hard healing on them for him to get booed.
Cheap heat.
Yeah.
Gotta love it.
And you know what? I'm kind of at that point with Bad News Barrett myself. I'm to the point now with him where he's purposefully trying to piss off the crowds, but now people like this bad news, I've got some bad news thing. He's got to say some really outrageous things to make people mad at him because they want to pop every time he cuts the promo.
And I myself pop. I mean, it was freaking hilarious.
It was. It's great. It's almost getting to the point where as good as the wrestler he is, it's starting to overshadow the match. But this was still a good match. I have no problem with RVD here. People will say he's past his prime. He's not robbed from ECW. He's not robbed from WWE 10 years ago. But when he's given the chance to shine on pay-per-view, I think he does fine.
Rob Van Dam does not age.
Yeah, you can call him ageless if you want to, but I don't know that, everybody says he's a step slower. I don't feel like that when he's on pay-per-view. Again, no. People are saying things that I'm not seeing.
No, Rob Van Dam, I mean, I can see where some people would think that. I mean, his Rolling Thunder kind of looks a little weak lately. He seems to sluggishly walk towards the ropes. I just look at it like he's been competing for over 8 to 10 minutes and he's showing fatigue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he should have been showing fatigue because Barrett was really just hitting him with everything, It took multiple tries before he finally got the bullhammer, but once he did, he'd laid such a beating on RVD up to that point that it was a very believable finish. At that point, RVD had been weakened to where the bullhammer, if you were playing this as a wrestling video game, you had just worn down the power bar of Rob Van Dam and then you hit your finishing move. He's not going to kick out after that.
Oh no, you put RVD in the red, especially in his head, and he's going to be down for the count after the bullhammer.
Yes, so I was perfectly happy with Bad News Barrett retaining. Good match. I felt it was one of the better matches on the pay-per-view. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I fully enjoyed this match.
Yeah, and then I fully enjoyed what came next, which was Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella versus Stephanie McMahon in Will Daniel Bryan Give Up His WWE World Heavyweight title? So, Nick, I'll let you take it away. Tell our listeners what happened here.
Okay, well, this was Daniel Bryan's ultimatum. Will he give up the WWE World Heavyweight Championship? Or will Stephanie McMahon take action and fire Brie Bella? Now, this is probably what I was somewhat most intrigued in, because I myself wanted to know what was going to happen. Was Daniel Bryan going to lose the title or Brie get fired? And when they turned it around on us, this was the real swerve for me. When Brie Bella told Stephanie that she's no longer going to be a victim and then quit and slapped the taste out of Stephanie's mouth, putting Stephanie's very own slaps to shame, that was the real shocker for me.
And so much so that Stephanie McMahon ran away pouting and crying because she had just been showed up by Brie Bella.
I mean, Stephanie throws some of the sickest slaps I've ever seen. And Brie just made Stephanie's face quiver.
Yes. I want to be a fly on the wall for the backstage conversation they had setting this up when Stephanie just told Brie, I want you to make this look good. Hit me as hard as you possibly can. Cause Brie took her seriously when she told her that. Brie just hauled off and pimp slapped the hell out of Stephanie here.
Well, not only, I mean, Brie has to be smiling ear to ear no matter what, because this whole time, this whole feud, up until this point, I mean, she got to slap Stephanie, she got to shove her, she got to call her a bitch on a couple of occasions. I mean, how much in good graces can you be if you're allowed to do that on camera?
You know that just goes to show that they really do like each other, because Stephanie would not let anybody do that to her that she wasn't totally cool with. Obviously, her and Daniel and Brie, whatever the storyline is on TV, for Brie to get the better of her in every single situation, you know they gotta be pretty tight.
And they really played this up well. Very quiet about it. I mean, they interviewed Nikki Bella on the kickoff show, asking her, where Brie's head is at, and Nikki just said that she hadn't talked to Brie or Brian for the past couple of days. So they've been really quiet, hush-hush about this, and then Brie drops the bombshell that she quits.
Yeah, that was fantastic. The fact, like you said, she told Stephanie, I'm not gonna be a victim. You can't make this about me. You can't threaten my husband this way. Because you can't fire me, I quit. And it's not exactly the way she worded it, but that was her intent. Like, you have no power over Daniel Bryan if I quit, so I'm screwing you before you can screw him. Again, we talked about the swerve to the swerve, and the swerve in this case was her taking the power away from Stephanie McMahon. So, you can't call this a match, but you can definitely call it the progression of the story. And this was a great story and very well told.
I would not mind if Stephanie dusted off her old tennis shoes and got back in the ring against Brie Bella at SummerSlam.
We know she's in shape. She's doing those fitness videos, so she could actually get in the ring. I mean, I don't know if it would be a good match. It might even be bowling shoe ugly. I have no idea, but we know that physically she would be in good enough shape to do it.
And speaking of shape, like, just that dress Stephanie wore. Oh my god. She fit that dress perfectly. Seriously, she looks good right now.
She doesn't look like she's had 2 kids already. I mean, you wouldn't know it by looking at her.
Isn't it 3 kids? 3 little daughters?
Oh yeah, you're right. 3 kids. See, that goes to show you just how good it is that we can't even keep track of how many kids she's had by now, because she does not look like she's had multiple children.
And then, earlier in the promo, Stephanie mentioned that, she hopes that their future kids, their future weird bearded babies, learn a lesson from them. And, Daniel Bryan was talking and the crowd started another CM Punk chant. And this was another mention. This is the most mentions of CM Punk by the talent that I've seen since he's been gone. Because Stephanie commented that saying, these people want you to quit just like CM Punk did. That made my jaw drop.
Yeah, that was a heck of a line by Stephanie. I admit I was caught off guard by that, because their policy in a lot of cases of late has been, we're not mentioning CM Punk, we're pretending he's not here, we're acting like nothing happened, we're gonna continue to sell his merchandise, to sell his t-shirts, to pretty much sell his whatever we've got that has his name or logo on it that we can sell, to the point they even made new t-shirts after he left. So they don't very often acknowledge that CM Punk was vacant from the company of his own volition. And they did so in a very public way on this show.
Yeah, I mean, first off, Paul Heyman mentioning that he's not there, that he's at a Blackhawks game, which he was, and then Stephanie just outright saying that he quit. So, like, I guess the hush-hush period is over. So, what was it, January that he walked out? So
yeah, it was like a week or 2 weeks before Raw was in Omaha, so he quit right before I would have gotten to see him at Raw, which frustrated me to no end.
Yeah, I can imagine. This is what, 4 months in now that he's been gone?
Yeah, obviously they're to the point
5?
now. Yeah, I guess the thing that might have put it over the top, and we're getting a little segue here, but we'll go with it, because I think the thing that really put it over the top was he did that interview with Red Eye Chicago, or whatever the name of the Chicago magazine is, and he said that he quote unquote retired from wrestling. And the fact that he would say that in an interview when most of the time when people interview him, WWE is like a taboo topic and he doesn't even discuss it, just like they haven't been discussing him. I think that's what broke the ice here. The fact that he's saying that he retired from wrestling and that he doesn't miss it is what's finally leading them to say, like, okay, if you're telling people you're done, we're going to tell people you quit. You put the ball in our court, we're going to run with it.
It threw me off, and for Punk to say that he retired from wrestling is like, all right, well, I guess he's not just being a sore sport or taking a sabbatical. I guess that he's done, so whatever.
We'll see if that sticks. You know how it is with wrestling and retirements. People say they're retired, and then a few years go by, and they come back. And honestly, I'm not going to be shocked if Phil comes back later on. But I do think in the short term, in the near foreseeable future, he's not coming back because they've done 2 events in Chicago, and he hasn't been on either one of them now. So I think that's a pretty good sign that he's happy being away.
Yeah, and you said put it over the top with him saying he retired, and then we have the mention on the show. And speaking of over the top, it's WWE Network's motto. It's way over the top, and I couldn't agree more because what a perfect way to spend your Sunday night watching a pay-per-view on the WWE Network for $9.99 a month and watching probably Cena's best last man standing match next to the one he had with Edge at Backlash 2009.
Well, you say it's the best one he's ever had, but I'm still fond of the Batista one. I realize technically from a work perspective, it's maybe not the best, but the comedy of it makes it one of the best for me because of the fact that Batista had his epic freak out about it on Raw the next night. Duct tape? Are you serious? Really? That to me, that makes that last man standing match great.
Well, that one also always sticks out in my mind because it provided us with a fantastic drop for the Angry Marks Network.
Yes, it did.
But the other one, the one I mentioned with Edge also sticks out with me because I was there live. That was in Providence, Rhode Island, and that was the match that Edge went through the spotlight via Big Show, and Edge won the World Heavyweight Championship that night. But for spots and entertainment value, this match with Bray Wyatt, it might not be the absolute best that Cena has had, but for the crowd in Chicago, personally how the Chicago crowd reacts to Cena.
They hate him.
Exactly. And for them to chant that this is awesome has got to be saying something. And I know they don't want to give Cena credit, and they're probably giving all the credit to Bray Wyatt. But all the spots in this match, including Luke Harper, Erick Rowan, Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso, this was fun.
Yes. Out of all of the matches, I was tweeting, I was posting on Facebook, I was live blogging on Tumblr. This was the one match that I enjoyed so much, I started taking screenshots of the WWE Network on my phone in progress during the match. Like, look at Bray Wyatt here. Look at him, like, levitating upside down. And look at this crazy spot with Cena putting him through the barrier and then putting the other barrier on top of him and then getting the last man standing 10 count because he couldn't get out. I mean, there were just one after another crazy spots. And thank you for mentioning the Usos as well, because the fact that they came out here to be equalizers made it entirely justifiable for Cena to win this match, because if it had been the Wyatt family against Cena, I would have expected the Wyatt family to retain again, just like they did last month. Well, retain, maybe not being the word. Retain their spot in the feud anyway, their dominance over Cena. But when Cena can level the playing field and the Usos are there to take out Luke Harper and Erick Rowan, it's believable for Cena to win under those circumstances.
Now, if you would allow the time given to this match, because there are a lot of things that I wanted to mention in here. Previous last man standing matches involving Cena for the most part, have always bothered me because he's always played up to the count, always getting up at 8 or 9, and even when the match would first start.
Right.
This match was just non-stop. I mean, normally, I've recapped Last Man Standing matches before. Hell, there was one on SmackDown this past Friday night. But there have been tons of rest periods in Last Man Standing matches. This was so hard to keep up because when one guy was down, the other guy was doing something and not just standing there waiting for him to get to his feet. That's one of the aspects that I appreciated in this match, is that it was not boring at all.
Yeah, there was no extended amount of... You see this in I Quit matches too. It often happens where you get somebody doing one move and then standing there for a long time with the microphone saying, say you quit. Come on, say you quit. I want to hear you say I quit. And it's just like totally unnecessary at the beginning of the match to pull out that spot. It should be something that until you've really beaten the dog fist out of the guy, you can't even get a mic and even say that to him. And it should be that same way with the Last Man Standing match. Like, until you've laid an unmerciful beating on a guy, you shouldn't be getting near falls in the Last Man Standing. And they really did whip each other from quote unquote pillar to post in this.
Another thing I want to bring up is the Usos and the rest of the Wyatt family. In the middle of the match, we saw them go at it. We saw Harper do a suicide dive through the ropes. And then after that happened, well, we also saw Jimmy hit like the corkscrew plancha from the top rope to the floor. That was just a freaking awesome spot. Then they disappeared. It was back to Cena and Wyatt. We saw the Sister Abigail on the floor. We saw the Attitude Adjustment on the floor. And after that happened, the Wyatt family came back, helped Bray Wyatt to his feet, went after Cena, grabbed tables. The Usos came back out. I mean, it was just non-stop excitement. One of the Usos, I believe it was Jey, hit the Rikishi / Umaga style running butt bump through a table.
Mm-hmm.
And then Luke Harper delivers a superplex from the top rope to the floor through 2 tables.
God bless Luke Harper. That was insane.
Oh my god. All 6 men put in a really fantastic effort into this match to keep it entertaining and keep it exciting. And Melissa and I were watching this, and she actually asked the question, could outside help one of the competitors to his feet? And I had the answer that I've never really seen someone come out with, a manager or just anybody else at ringside help them up. I've never seen it before, and that question got answered in this match.
Yes, we actually saw that. So very, very astute question from Melissa to ask during this pay-per-view.
Yeah, and the end of the match was good. The Attitude Adjustment into some wooden box, and then another one gets laid out on top of him. Cena's the last man standing, and the fact that he went back and helped the Usos to the back was good. That he didn't forget about him.
Right. They came out and they had his back, and he had their back. And Cena's the consummate babyface. That's what you'd expect from him. But at the same time, it was a nice bit of salesmanship on his part. Like, this isn't just about me. This is me and my friends.
This might be the most exciting last man standing match I have seen. Might be. It's at the very top. I would say top 3.
They might actually be setting a template now that if they're gonna do last man standing in the future, they need to follow this formula. They need to have guys with factions. I mean, the Cena Uso faction kind of had to be created spontaneously through booking on Raw, Main Event, and SmackDown, but it works because they're all good guys and they've all got their supporters, and Cena's got his haters, of course, but the Usos don't have too many detractors, so they kind of put them together as the good guys who will stand up against the bad guys. But it may just be that with the last man standing from this point on, You need the babyface to have a couple of guys with him. You need the heel to have a couple of guys with him. So when there's a point in the match where it could fall apart because you're waiting for some guy to get up before 10, and it's the same old cliche, the other people in the match can be doing something to divert your attention and keep the match strong.
And I love that the Usos came out to help Cena and even the odds. They came out right at the top of the match, and they got a nice chant from the crowd. The crowd was chanting Uso, so even though Chicago hates Cena, they do like the Usos, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, it all worked out well in the end. Speaking of which, working out well, you know what? Paige wins. She defends the WWE Divas title successfully, but I still got what I wanted here, which was Alicia Fox having a big freak out. That, to me, is more entertaining than whether she wins or loses, is seeing Alicia Fox throw a fit.
You know, I think that for whatever reason, WWE or whoever is in charge of letting her do this, they're letting her just have fun out there. And that's what I like to see now. Whether some people think it's stupid or whatever, you know, all that matters is she's having fun. Now, there have been some points during her freakouts that I question, like, why do we need to see this? But I think on this show, I think she just had a good time.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was funny when she stole JBL's cowboy hat and then King's crown. Those are probably the best moments for me.
Right, or when she poured the drink all over herself and was soaking wet, which, to me, not a bad look, because Alicia Fox is a pretty attractive woman, and to see her dripping wet, yeah, I'll just leave it there.
It was soda, too, that she just...
She looks good wearing soda, what can I say?
But, Paige's, finisher, which was originally the Scorpion Crosslock, I find it interesting that she calls it the PTO, the Paige Tap Out.
I think that's a good name for it, and I think you want to move away from the comparison to Sting. I think that's a good move on everybody's part, on her part, on WWE's part, because we still don't know what's going on with Sting, whether he's going to sign, whether he's not going to sign, whether he's just going to be in limbo forever. So start calling it the PTO. That's a better way to go.
Sting wants to swerve us on top of a swerve.
Yeah, talk about your multiple swerves. That's one for the ages. 2014 is going to be the year of Sting leaves TNA and never signs with anybody. It's just going to ongoing week after week after week. And if he ever does, we're never going to see it coming.
Yeah, he swerves us by showing up on the WWE network to talk about Ultimate Warrior, but then swerves us again by not officially signing with WWE.
If I ever see him in a show, like, I know he does these autograph signings every now and then for, like, Wizard World and the Autograph Con, whatever it's called. And if I see him at one of these, I'll be like, you've been the best worker of 2014 just for never signing with anybody.
Work. Speaking of Sting, man, Roman Reigns had a lashing of kendo sticks on his back, and he's got to be stinging right now.
Yeah, this was a very physical elimination match, and not a whole lot of eliminations in it until the very end, which had some of my friends like Mosey Dews on Twitter, like, is this match ever going to end? Are they going to go past the top of the hour? What's going on here?
That was my question as well, and I mean, I'm thinking that, maybe they can, they can go far because it's on the network, but wait, they're still on pay-per-view, so they have obligations to that. It's 10 minutes to the top of the hour. They're fighting outside the ring. What's going on? Is this match ever gonna finish? Are they gonna fight to the back and not end the match? What are they gonna do?
and what's the internet gonna do once Batista's not there wearing his blue gear tomorrow? Because he became the star of this match just by his outfit.
Was it the number one trend, Blue Tista?
It was. I tried to get Smurf Tista going, but Batista blew it out of the water. I was too late.
Oh man, Batista, Blutista. He's already been more talked about since his return than he's ever expected.
And that's why whenever people want to crap on Batista, I'm like, you know what? You can forget all the hate because he has solidly entertained me. In fact, let's just be honest about it. Considering CM Punk didn't show up at Raw when I went and Batista was there, I think Batista has been the star in my eyes for the last 4 months because even when people were hating him, at least he was there for people to actually hate.
Now, I gotta ask you, Stevie, what was your favorite spot of this match, if you can even pinpoint one?
I guess if I had to pick one, and there's a bunch, it would be Seth Rollins diving off the Titantron, because I didn't even see him go out there and get up on it. I guess they did a sleight of hand and distracted me, and he comes flying off the top of that thing. It's like, holy shit, how'd he get up there?
Yeah, I think that would pretty much be the top of everybody's list. The amount of times that we saw Evolution get a 3-on-1 advantage, I thought they were gonna win or go over with at least one elimination, but I really can't believe how long this match went before they even had their first elimination.
Right. I think we were like 3 or 4 minutes from the top of the hour before Roman Reigns hit the spear on Batista. They were cutting this real close.
And now that I have some time to think about it, I'm thinking they probably did that on purpose so that the match in the pay-per-view ends at maybe at the 58-minute mark, maybe at the 59-minute mark, so that as soon as it ends, the Fallout show will start to air on the WWE Network right after. I kind of think they did that on purpose.
So you think this is a trend now? You think for future WWE Network special events / pay-per-views, we're going to get shows that actually run all the way to the top of the hour now?
Well, I honestly think that since they've had WrestleMania Fallout, which, actually, now that I think about it, that was a week after, but they did Extreme Rules Fallout right after. I don't really remember how long that went, but if they're going to continue this trend with a pre-show and a post-show, I think they might keep the pay-per-view going till maybe 2 minutes to the top of the hour, so that there's, maybe people have a minute to go get a drink of water or go to the bathroom and come back to their couch or their television set, their Roku, their iPhone, whatever, and watch the Fallout right after, if they're interested.
I think you might be onto something here, Nick. I don't dispute it, so we'll see if that continues from this point on, but as noted, these eliminations all came very late, so I mentioned Batista being speared by Roman Reigns and getting pinned, and then Randy Orton got eliminated after he got hit in the back with a chair by Dean Ambrose, and then got hit with the Dirty Deeds. And then, of course, we had the last elimination, and you thought Triple H was going to turn the tide at this point. You thought he might pedigree somebody. He even got handed a sledgehammer, and still Roman Reigns hit him with the spear.
Good finish, good ending, really good match. I think it was just a step better than their match at Extreme Rules, which honestly, looking back at the whole feud, I think Evolution should have won at Extreme Rules. That would make this win a little sweeter and make this rematch, quote unquote, plausible.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah. It's weird now to say that the Shield has gone over Evolution clean twice in a feud, and in the elimination style match, they got all 3 eliminations. It's like, why was this even a feud to begin with? Because the Shield has dominated them at every turn.
Now, I understand why this is going on, and I'm sure you can see the writing on the wall as well. This is clearly looking forward to the future for Roman Reigns versus Triple H at SummerSlam. I know you can see the writing on the wall of that.
Of course, you're right. And they had to do this the way they did it because of the fact that Batista's leaving for Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, we all saw the trailers before X-Men Days of Future Past. They're really getting behind this movie. It's going to be one of the big movies of the summer.
Yeah, they even had the trailer for it before Captain America too. So I think all the Marvel movies they're focusing on Guardians of the Galaxy as their next top movie coming out. So Batista's got to do his rounds and make his promotions and be blue all over the world.
Yeah, he can take that blue outfit wherever he's going to promote the movie. France, Spain, Germany, Australia, wherever he's at. He can come out wearing the blue outfit.
I know, right? That was just horrible. I let the red go, the maroon, whatever, but the blue, just a little too much.
It just reminds me, though, of that promo that got cut on him the week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, by the Rhodes Brothers, when he was like, skinny jeans and arcade blow. And to me, that's what's awesome about Batista, is nobody at his age and his physique should get away with wearing skinny jeans, but the fact Batista does is what makes Batista great.
I mean, you'd think that he'd learn his lesson after splitting his skinny jeans a couple of weeks ago.
You would, right? But
it was before WrestleMania, I think. Yeah, he split his jeans right down the seam. He still wore them.
And that's why I heart Dave Batista, because he just doesn't care. He's gonna wear what he wants, and that's why he's awesome. That's what made him awesome right before he left WWE. When he stopped caring what people were gonna say to him about what he did and just did what he wanted, that's when he became great.
Duct tape? Really? Are you serious? Duct tape?
There are so few guys that can entertain me as much as Batista, and it's partly because he just does what he wants and lets the chips fall where they may, and it's partly because he really is people don't give him the credit. He is a physically good worker. He was putting in the effort in this match, even though he's older probably than everybody else involved. He was just as physical in this match as everybody else.
Oh yeah, he kept up his part, his half of the match and everything. I appreciated everybody in this match, and they definitely wanted to, or did not want to be outshined by NXT TakeOver, so they stepped their game up every single match. I believe they really has good chemistry. This is probably some of the best lineup of matches and competitors who know each other and can work together.
I agree. And I think the bottom line on this one is a lot of people may have gone into it saying it's not that big of a show, it's not following anything major, it's coming in the middle of a point where Daniel Bryan is on the sidelines and the world title's not even being defended, and there were a lot of naysayers going into Payback, but at the end of the day, you look at this show from top to bottom, it was entertaining. It delivered. It met or exceeded expectations.
Now, the biggest question is what's next? Especially with Daniel Bryan. He's still, as of now, the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Brie Bella quit. What does Nikki do? What's next for the Shield? All these questions arise. What's next for Paige? Does AJ come back and challenge her for the title? My biggest thing is, who's going to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match?
Right. Well, you and Melissa are going to be there in just a few weeks' time, so this is going to be a very interesting pay-per-view for you. And I don't just say that because I've been to Money in the Bank myself, but because what we're seeing, what we're reading right now, is that they're not going to strip Daniel Bryan of the title. They're actually going to let him hold on to it for the foreseeable future. How they work that in storyline by having him continue to feud with Stephanie, we'll just have to watch Raw. We'll have to read Ian Clark's Raw recap. We'll have to listen to the Raw reaction with Tensai and Big Vic. They'll explain all of that in the course of those things. But what's going to happen at Money in the Bank, and this is what you're likely to see at the end of the month, is a number one contenders match. And it looks like out of all the guys they're going to put in it, Cesaro may just be the one. May just be the one to get the briefcase.
That would be nice. I wasn't sure if he was going to win the United States title because I've mentioned before that anytime you team up with Paul Heyman, he gives you gold. Except unless your name is Ryback. But
or Curtis Axel. Well, no, wait. Curtis Axel did win a title. You're right.
Exactly. So that's why I say that. But I mean, I'm excited, not just because I'll be at Money in the Bank. I mean, I've never been to the pay-per-view. I've never seen Money in the Bank live. Honestly, I don't remember if I've seen a ladder match live. So this is definitely a big plus for me. Not just the fact of being there, like I said, just the simple fact of who would win. It's probably my third favorite pay-per-view behind WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble.
It is a good one, and it doesn't always get treated like that. It's not recognized as one of the, quote, traditional, like Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, but quiet as kept, Money in the Bank, when they moved it off of being a WrestleMania feature match to its own pay-per-view, has become one of the best shows of the year every single year.
It's always the anticipation of who's gonna win, who's gonna be the next Mr. Money in the Bank. And that's something you can say over SummerSlam and over Survivor Series, because there's really, honestly, no prize by the end of the show. So that's why I love Money in the Bank, because you have someone who's gonna win a ladder match and hold a briefcase for a future title shot. That, just like I love the Royal Rumble, the person who wins the Rumble match gets a title shot at WrestleMania, and then you have WrestleMania itself. So, Money in the Bank, I feel, is probably, and should be, one of the more important pay-per-views, because there is a prize at the end of it.
I agree. And I can tell you right now that I'm probably looking forward to it much more than Payback, even though Payback over-delivered and I thought it was an excellent show. I think Money in the Bank, for all the reasons you've just outlined, is going to be fantastic. So, again, $9.99 well spent. It seems like we're shamelessly shilling WWE Network here, but hey, what can I say? You're not just shilling it because you're actually going to Money in the Bank. It's costing you well more than $9.99 to be there.
This is one of those cases where it is worth paying more than that to be there live. The experience is bar none exciting.
Absolutely, yeah. WWE live events. I can't think of one that I've ever completely hated. Most of them have been good. A few of them have been great. A couple have been, oh my god, awesome. So, it's hard to argue that they want to put, they always use this cliche, put smiles on people's faces. It's hard to be angry as an angry mark when you're at a live WWE event.
And not the fact that it's Raw or SmackDown. I mean, the last time WWE came in my area, it was for SmackDown. I unfortunately was not able to go, but the fact that the next show that comes around here is a pay-per-view, or a special event, whatever you want to call it, I'm extremely excited.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I'm a little envious because they seem to have the pay-per-views in your neck of the woods a little more often than they do in mine.
Yeah, I mean, if I recall, the last pay-per-view that was here was Survivor Series, last year.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, we had...
Didn't you have Royal Rumble before that?
We had Royal Rumble in 2011. After that was Night of Champions 2012.
Right. So you get like one a year almost every year, whereas last one I got here was Judgment Day in like 2008.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, well, we're not LA. We don't get SummerSlam every single year.
Well, we don't get Payback every year too, because that seems to go to Chicago every year now.
Yeah, it was there last year too.
Yeah, maybe cities are just going to become staples No pun on Staples Center, but they're just going to become a staple of that city from this point. But hey, that could be good for you if they do Money in the Bank every year in Boston.
Hey, I wouldn't mind that. I mean, we've had the best pay-per-views. We've had Survivor Series twice, the Royal Rumble once, Night of Champions we've had, and we're getting Money in the Bank. I mean, I've never been to any of the, quote-unquote B-level shows like, when they had Vengeance or, Fatal 4-Way pay-per-view or Breaking Rules or whatever. I've never been to any of those. Those have never come around here, so they know. I guess it's because Boston is one of the biggest towns that they do well in. Because every time I've gone, I mean, this show was almost sold out. I got my tickets late. I got my tickets yesterday, or Friday, as a matter of fact. So there's only one more month to go. I got like some of the last tickets.
Yeah, Boston is a very strong market for them. Boston's strong. How about that?
There you go. It's not a phrase. It's really a meaning.
It is. And I think if we don't get off of the air, I'm going to be using the phrase Stevie Strong, because I'm going to need something to lift me up if we go another hour and we go to the top of the hour like we did with this pay-per-view, because I'm going to need coffee or I'm going to need something. So if you
Strong style.
Strong style, yeah. It'll be like Japanese Puro Russo. So if you got any closing plugs, Nick, feel free.
No, the plugs just, check out AngryMarks.com where we have recaps, podcasts, everything involved, the news articles. Stevie is on top of his game with all the news. When it comes to SmackDown Rundown, this weekend was King Jay's, last episode. Definitely won't be his penultimate final episode. I mean, King Jay will still be around. He could pop up every now and then. You just never know. As for myself, I felt it was time. Well, I take some time off. I have a busy June. I apologize to all the fans, listeners of the SmackDown Rundown who look forward to the show, because I look at us as being original and a pioneer. I'm not blowing smoke up my ass. I am just saying, you don't hear too many shows talk about Friday Night SmackDown. And that's what we're here for. Like I said, just gonna take some time off. I have some busy events in June outside of Angry Marks. I have a wedding to go to. I have Money in the Bank to go to. I have graduations to go to. So I figured this month I might just take a break. You never know. There might be a surprise episode. Stay tuned. And gonna try and make SmackDown Rundown a continuous show on the Angry Marks network. So stay tuned.
Absolutely. And Jeff is still part of the Angry Marks family, even if he can't be the permanent co-host of the SmackDown Rundown. So we respect that. Like Sierra, he's got some other things going on, and he had to take the time to do those things, but he's part of the family, just like you're part of the family, Nick. It's AngryMarks.com. We stick together. We're thick as thieves around here. So Jeff's always welcome on any show at any time. And if you guys do bring it back together like that, then that's all good. And if you reformat the show and continue with the new host and Jeff comes in from time to time, that's all good as well.
Definitely. I am looking into candidates for a continuing the show. It's going to take time, but stay tuned. Be patient, folks. It's just getting busy, real work, real world. And it's just crazy. So like I said, stay tuned to AngryMarks.com. Stay tuned to my Twitter account at Nikolai, Nickolye. I will hopefully have some updates, but be patient, folks.
Absolutely. We got a lot going on this summer. I know I got a lot going on this summer too, because Nick's not the only one with a busy June coming up. I'm going to be going to Chicago to watch Chikara in just a few weeks. I'm going to be covering UFC fights in San Antonio. There's going to be a lot of things going on for me as well. So I'll keep you all informed on that at Angry Marks, AngryMarks.com, on Facebook /Angry Marks. Wherever you go, you'll see what Nikolai and I are up to. So thanks for listening to our post-Payback pay-per-view recap show. My name is Stevie J. My tag team partner has been Nikolai. Thanks and good night, everybody.
Good night.